So I've done a deep dive on 10 companies at this point, and I found out that all of those 10 companies do have exterior and interior facing cameras. This means that the company is monitoring what's going on out on the road as well as their drivers. And if having interior facing cameras is something that you're uncomfortable with, I'm here to tell you that it is coming in the industry for everybody. And it has nothing to do with federal regulation or state regulation to have driver facing cameras. There's another puppet master at work here. And as of last week, I found out that my company, a small little local company with only about 12 drivers, is fixing to install interior facing cameras and exterior facing cameras into their trucks as well. And when I found out that my company was getting ready to install these cameras into the truck, my first reaction was, oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible. We're going to be watched all the time. It's going to make us a nervous wreck. So I took a couple of days to think about what the implications of having the interior facing cameras are. And now in theory, it makes sense. Okay, we have cameras out on the road just in case a car cuts us off and brake checks and we get into an accident, we're covered. And the interior camera can prove that we are not distracted with our cell phones or eating or anything like that while we're driving the trucks. And ideally, this is a great thing if it's used properly. Driver-facing cameras have been a controversy in the industry for a long time. I get comments on my videos all the time when I do a deep dive on a major carrier that says that they have the driver-facing camera as well as the road-facing camera. And a lot of the complaints that are brought up is that they feel like it would be an invasion of privacy, especially when you're over the road and in a sleeper cab, when your bed is in clear sight of this camera. And being that drivers don't have access to these cameras, you never know what they are actually recording. And to be honest, that's a perfectly fair concern. We as truckers live out on the road. It's not just a simple go to work, clock out, go home. You live in the truck weeks, sometimes months out of the year. And as long as that truck is running, those cameras are running as well. Now, to be fair, there's not some person sitting there watching these things 24/7, but the fact that there is access and ability to is definitely a cause for concern. So when thinking about having an interior facing camera, I went on to do some research to see the legality of having a driver facing camera. And in my research, I found out that there is not a whole lot of laws regulating the interior facing cameras. And the big one is just consent. But here's the kicker with consent. A lot of companies will make consent a term of employment, meaning that if you do not consent to be recorded, you cannot work for that company. Now, these cameras aren't just there for the intent of an accident. The majority of these cameras are equipped with AI technology, and what the AI technology picks up is completely determined by the company. From cell phone usage to not wearing a seatbelt to distracted driving, even down to having a cigarette while you're going down the road. Now, I don't know about you, but I do know a ton of drivers smoke cigarettes, and I myself have been vaping for years. And I don't know about you, but there's no way if I'm driving 11 hours a day that I'm going to stop every time I need to take a sip of water. But that could be claimed as a form of distraction. And I even reacted to a lawsuit against a driver that had taken a drink of an energy drink and set it down, and then shortly after he got into an accident. And the opposing lawyers were trying to frame it that he was a distracted driver, therefore he should be responsible for the accident. There's a bunch of different companies making these driver-facing cameras and exterior-facing cameras, but one of the big players in the industry is Samsara. So I found some videos of what these cameras are actually capable of, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at that right now.
Samsara's dashcam is placed inside your vehicle and records road and inward-facing views throughout the trip. These dashcams are not meant to spy on you or serve as a micromanagement tool by your organization. Besides, do you really think your safety manager or coach has time to review every single second from your trip? No. They'll only review video if an incident occurs, like speeding, no seatbelt, using your phone, or tailgating.
Those are just the main functions of the camera. However, I know that the companies can set other things that they are looking out for, because I personally, with another company, have been pulled into the office for taking a hit of my vape. So companies definitely have the ability to pinpoint certain things that they don't want happening in their trucks, and these can be used as a punishment for drivers.
It's detected. Samsara sends video footage to your assigned safety manager or coach. Only select managers should have access to this footage, and the video footage is kept secure.
So not only are these cameras monitoring what's going on inside of the truck, they're connected to the truck's computer system. This means that it has access to your speed data. And not only that, these cameras are equipped with gyroscopes that can detect harsh braking, sharp cornering, and other things that are deemed as a potential issue.
Should have access to this footage, and the video footage is kept secure. As humans, it's only natural for our attention to wane on occasion, and distractions do occur. But the quicker we can address that, the better. Your team can enable in-cab alerts in real time. Here, we see a driver become briefly distracted while driving. Samsara's AI detects the driver looking away from the road. While we can all become distracted when
So my question with that, if it can detect your head movement, is it going to trigger when you're changing the station on the radio or reaching up and grabbing your CB and talking to somebody out on the road? These are all normal functions of a truck driver. So there's definitely a potential to get flagged and pulled into the office over changing the radio or doing normal functions of a truck driver.
Especially for long periods of time, a reported 78% of crashes have one form of distraction as a factor. So it's critical you're alerted to this. An audible alert is then played to the driver to encourage them to refocus their attention back on the road.
Put down phone.
For everyday occurrences like these, Samsara helps drivers take corrective action before more serious issues occur. Your team can also configure in-cab nudges. If enabled and you have not exceeded the maximum number of nudges set by the business, no footage would be sent to the safety inbox for review.
Okay, so here's another issue with this. Now, I'm not saying that messing around with your phone is a good idea while you're driving. It's not. It's 100% not a good idea. But these cameras have the ability to detect road signs, such as speed limit signs. And I've personally experienced a dash cam that would pick up a school zone in the summer. When no school is in session, the lights aren't flashing and start notifying you about speeding when you're not speeding for the current speed limit. And there's other cities around the United States that have a variable speed limit, meaning that based off of traffic, the speed limit is changing. So if it picks up a sign that's saying that it's 35 miles an hour, you clear the slowdown and it's back up to 55 miles an hour, you could get flagged for that as well. And not only that, but talk about a distraction, having these beeps and buzzes and all this stuff going off while you're trying to safely drive down the road.
This approach strikes a balance, enabling you to learn and improve without undue scrutiny. Instead, Samsara's AI empowers managers to focus their coaching efforts on the most crucial behaviors, addressing habitual issues rather than isolated incidents. So think of the dashcam as your personal coach to help you stay safe on the road. While the camera helps you to stay safe, it's also meant to protect you from false claims and blame. If you find yourself in an incident that's not your fault, dashcam video can help exonerate you by clearly showing what happened.
And if companies only use these in the event of an accident just to make sure that their driver was in the clear, that would be one thing. And I completely understand wanting to correct drivers that are using their cell phone while driving. However, oftentimes these cameras are used and abused to punish drivers for things that the company doesn't like. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all about being a safe driver, and I actually encourage drivers to get their own dash cam to where they have access to the footage that they get. And I can't blame these dash cam companies. Their goal with these things is to try to make a sale and make it to where it seems like it's an okay thing to have in the truck. But all too often, these companies will take advantage of having that access to the driver, where they're not completely focused on creating more safe driving. They're more focused on enforcing company policy. Yeah, lane departure is another thing. You see how it's monitoring the stoplight there? See, now it says distracted driving detected because he yawned. That guy yawned.
Hey, Pete. Hey, dispatch. Hey, it looks like it's been a long day out there, man. It looks like you're getting a little tired. Why don't you pull over and take a break?
And again, if that's how it's used, great. You know, if the company actually cares about their drivers and not enforcing their policy, fine, not an issue at all. And I completely understand drivers that have a complaint about having the cameras inside of the trucks. And most drivers aren't worried about this because they feel like they're an unsafe driver and they're doing things that could potentially cause an accident. And I know for me personally, my big issue with having these cameras is the constant worry and anxiousness that somebody's looking over you. Because despite what these videos from these companies have said, they can access those cameras at any time. And what footage they're actually accessing, you'll never know unless you get pulled into the office for something. Because companies don't allow you to access the footage from your own vehicle. And not just that, it's the constant dinging and buzzing from events that are recorded that have nothing to do with what's actually going on in the real world. From lane departure events happening because you're in a construction zone and they're switching the lanes around. So like I mentioned before, going through school zone in the middle of the summer where the school speed zone is 20 miles per hour, but the regular speed limit is 35. So it's dinging at you and buzzing at you to slow down when you're really not speeding for the things that are going on in the real world. And being that there's no real regulation on the limitations of the companies to be able to use these dash cams for their own purposes, your options are extraordinarily limited. Either don't work for the company or deal with having those annoyances and having that dash cam facing you all the time. And at the end of the day, even if these companies have to have these in their trucks, the level of strictness that they employ in order to maintain driver control is completely up to them. Now, do I think every company that has these dash cams installed inside of their trucks is going to be super strict and big brotherish about having them in their trucks? And no, I absolutely do not think that every company is built the same. Some companies will flag you for every little thing, and other companies are a little bit more lax and they understand that normal functions of driving a truck occur, such as changing the station on the radio or talking on the CB or taking a sip of water. And those companies won't automatically flag every single little thing just to trip a driver up. But the only real way to tell how strict a company is just to go and work for them. And being that my company is rolling it out, I really found the real reason why these dash cams are being installed in every truck. And like I said, it has nothing to do with regulation. It's all about the master puppeteer of the entire trucking industry. And to be honest, many other industries as well. And if you haven't guessed it by now, it's insurance. Insurance controls so much that goes on within this industry, it's absolutely unbelievable. And you might be asking, how is the insurance controlling what's happening in the industry? Well, it's a lot like blackmail. If the company isn't doing what the insurance wants them to do, they'll hike up the rates. It used to be for dash cams that if you wanted a cheaper rate, you could install these dash cams into the truck and save yourself a little bit of money. But it's switching, and now insurance companies are increasing rates from their base rate if you do not have the cameras installed in the trucks. And with how tight and expensive everything is in the trucking industry already, companies aren't willing to deal with that extra charge to not have those cameras in the trucks. So the insurance companies are forcing the trucking companies to install these cameras into the trucks, and if they don't comply, they're going to hike the rates and make them pay more. And the insurance companies have been controlling things within the industry for a long time. From what kind of equipment the company can use, who they can hire, whether or not they have dash cams, and before ELD became a federal mandate, that was part of it as well. Look, in my opinion, there's a bunch of different stuff that's out there to control drivers. From ELD monitored hours of service, to governed trucks, and now down to these interior facing cameras. And I've always stood by the idea that companies should hire professional drivers and all these extra things would no longer be necessary. But the problem is that the industry doesn't look at truck drivers as professionals anymore. And it's a sad reality to see these people who have worked for a very long time to develop this skill of driving a truck to be looked at as just another cog in the machine of the economy. And when drivers aren't looked at as professionals, it leads to an overall decline in respect for truck drivers. And it's not just men and women that decide one day that they want to grab some keys and hop into a semi-truck. It takes time and experience to build the skill of being able to maneuver an 80,000-pound vehicle down the road. And it does require an extreme amount of focus. But I think a lot of times with all these different technologies, the industry is creating the steering wheel holders and leaving behind the true professionals that actually care about driving the truck safely, that hyper focus on creating enough distance on either side of the line when they're backing into a dock, the professionals that take pride in their career and their knowledge of being able to maneuver these big vehicles. So if you're looking to get into the trucking industry, just know that these interior facing cameras are going to become an industry standard. And if that's not something that you're going to be comfortable with, it's probably a good idea just to stay away from trucking. But let me know what you think about driver facing cameras. Do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing? And if you've worked for a company that has these dash cams, what's the most ridiculous thing that you've got pulled into the office to talk about? I want to hear what you have to say down in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All right, bye.